After these events, the one and only true God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham. And Abraham answered, Here am I. And God said, Take your son, your only son, the one whom you love, Isaac. Come, go with me to the land of Moriah, and there offer him as an offering of ascension on one of the mountains which I shall tell you. Now pay attention, he didn't tell him, butcher, slaughter him, but he said, bring him, and it's a very unique phrase he uses there, as an offering that goes up. Abraham rose early in the morning, saddled his donkey, took his 2 young men with him, and Isaac his son. He himself cut the wood for the offering of ascension, and then he got up and went to the place of which the one God had told him. And on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from afar. Now I'm able to show you this place. We are here more or less. It changed a lot, I know. And Abraham certainly did not hear all the cars and the people around here, but it's very much the place, if we look at the geography, where Abraham arrived and lifted up his eyes and come with me, he saw the place, and it is this place here that he saw. And actually, between this place and where I'm standing here, or where Abraham saw it from afar, is a valley. And this valley, in Hebrew, it's called Gey Hinnom, the Valley of Hinnom. And from this, for example, comes the Arabic word Gehenna, which is the word of hell, which it was actually the very valley where the Canaanites offered their children to Moloch, and they burned them. So when Abraham stood here, having in his head the commandment of God to offer up, to bring up Isaac, he saw the valley where the child offerings took place, and we are reminded of Deuteronomy, where it says, for they even burned their sons and their daughters in the fire to their gods. And it was something that the God of Israel could not stand. You have to have that in mind. And then Abraham said to the young men who were with them, to his servants, he said, stay here with the donkey. I and the boy will go over there. We will worship and return here. Just listen. He didn't say, I will offer him. He didn't say, I will slaughter him. I will murder him. He said, we will worship and I will return to you. And Abraham took the wood of the offering of ascension and put it on Isaac his son, and he took his hand and the fire and the knife, and they went both of them together in unity. Father and son had not spoken until now. At least there's no recording of them talking to each other. So there had been silent, and maybe it was also a little bit of depression. It was certainly tension. And into this silence now, Isaac said to Abraham, his father, Daddy, Father, may I ask you something? And Abraham answered, yes, my son, I'm here. And Isaac said, look, there are the fire and the wood, but where's the lamb for a burnt offering? And to this Abraham replied, God will see for himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. And then it says again, so they went both of them together, and I add, because this somehow comes with it, they went together in unity. Now this is repeated twice. And we have to ask ourselves, why in this text that is so concise, so short, is this repeated twice? Please understand, Isaac at that time wasn't a little child anymore. He was a man. And the question is how old? He was grown up, maybe 35 years old. And he knew what was going to happen. He knew what was the command of God to his father. He knew that God had asked him to asked Avraam to offer Isaac up. So what we see here, and we have to understand that, is that the two, the father and the son, went together in unity. And they arrived at the place of which the one true God had spoken to Abraham, and there Abraham built the altar. He let the wood in order, and then he bound Isaac his son. He laid him on the altar on top of the wood, and Abraham reached out his hand. He took the knife to slaughter his son. And in that moment, the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, he cried out, "Abram, Abram!" He stopped him. And the rabbis here ask, why is it suddenly the angel that is talking to Abraham? Before, God had spoken directly to Abraham, and Abraham had answered directly to God. And the rabbis say that the whole of heaven was in uproar that God had demanded such a thing from Abraham. And now God let the angel go and say, tell him, do not harm him. We have to understand this whole situation. It's connected to the landscape, it's connected to the culture, but the culture then was not so much different than the culture today. Look, the extraordinary was not that God asked Abraham, come and offer your son. All the gods did it. And the whole world offered their sons and their daughters to whatever they called God. The extraordinary thing, the outstanding thing in this text is that God himself, heaven himself, forbids Abraham to bring his son as an offering. And you know, this is one of the basic messages of this text. Not that God asks a child offering, but that God forbids it in face of Gey Hinnom, of Gehenna, of the Valley of Hinnom. And you know, it is up until today that the world basically asks us to offer our children. If you see how many people today don't want to have a child, how many people abort children for their careers, whatever is their gods, even if you go into the believing families, how many believing parents offered their children for their ministry? And children say, we do want to do everything, but not just be like our children. The message here is very clear, and Father and Son together proclaim it, that God does not want children as an offering, as a sacrifice. And you know, you can look up to the New Testament. There it says a deacon, an elder, a bishop, a pastor has to show one qualification, that he's the husband of one wife, of one woman, and that he has children who go with him, who agree with him, that they have not been brought up as a sacrifice, and I say it now spiritually, killed for their father's ministry or for their mother's ministry, but they agree that they go with Abraham. So the message here is very clear. God does not want, under no circumstances, the offering, sacrifice of a child.